Hi, Tony Selzer here. Welcome to the Experience Economy, man. We've got a great new guest today, and really one of those businesses that is evolving to take care of high growth businesses. As always, we always focus on the technology accelerated growth companies, the companies that are really trying to really differentiate and disrupt the industry that they know or have been developed in. And Dave Anderson has got one of those businesses. Not only is he serving that business, he is actually one of those businesses. He is an RPO who is using technology in a very unfair competitive advantage to grow other technology businesses in the ultimate resource of people. So, Dave, tell us a little bit about your gestation story and how you got started.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So a long time in recruiting, long time in tech, software, and cybersecurity, and other things, and that really just evolved into, hey, I feel like what we did on the corporate side with recruitment and leading talent acquisition, we could do on for companies that I grew up in, in a very similar way. White glove service, leading in technology, and providing a value that's much better, much better experience, much better value than what people tend to think of when they think about going outside to a recruiting firm.
Yeah, and you guys are using technology in a very different way. A lot of organizations that are, they have multiple hats that they wear. Recruiting is one of those hats. HR management is another one of those hats. Benefit management is another one of those hats. Payroll is another one of those hats. Which you guys are very good at as in that early response, quick response. Getting the application in and making sure they feel like they have a great experience, and then the search to find the right talent to come on board. I think that's part of the differentiation. That's why this whole RPO movement that you're
Mhm.
leading, the resourcing process outsourcing, or recruiting outsourcing processing, it is really one of those things that didn't exist 2 to 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, but is now really becoming one of those necessary services that are tech enabled. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's really gaining momentum, Tony, and I think the reason for that is that job seekers, look, looking for a job is hard, right? Recruiting for talent, particularly technical talent, hard to find very specialized talent. It's really hard, and people want to make that process easier. Uh, Tech enabled allows us to do that. Just better, more efficient process, and talking, making it so that we boil all the things down in recruitment. Particularly in corporate recruitment, there tends to be a lot of administrative burden, a lot of things that you have to pay attention to. We're able to boil all that down to two real key elements in recruitment, and that's communication and relationships. So
Yeah.
if you communicate well, communicate fluidly throughout the process, you're going to build key relationships with clients and particularly with candidates, which are tough. Even in our kind of weird economy right now,
Mm-hmm.
candidates are still in the driver's seat. There's still more jobs.
It's interesting you say that, and I want to get back to the name of the company, Field of Talent. The
Yeah.
field has got smaller. Like no matter the way you look at this, like it blows my mind how we have people that in an economy that's in the state it's in, still desperately looking to source and find the talent that they're trying to find. And I think
Mhm.
there's a little bit of understanding there that needs to be, there you can source bodies, but finding the right talent to fit in a position that can actually be impactful, that's a different game. And that's part of what the value you bring as a recruiting organization is you're assuming some of that risk with your organization. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yeah, that's very accurate, Tony. When we begin a project with a client, whether that's a short-term one-off position or many, we work. We're well. Here's where I classify it: recruiting is a team sport. So to get the right people on the field, it takes a team, and that team is all about partnership with the client, with the hiring manager, with HR, and making sure that it's fluid for the candidate, because the candidates are evaluating the opportunity, evaluating us, and we snap in right along with our clients because we can become them, become their domain, and make it really seamless for the candidate. And that's really important. I think candidates want that.
Yeah. Thanks for the plug, by the way. That's the whole seamless.
Right? Exactly.
And I always get one in, man. It's one of those things. But, I think this thing from a technology standpoint, and especially with the kind of companies we're working with, we see one out of five salespeople making quota. We see
Hmm.
one out of every three developers actually hitting production numbers. We
Hmm.
see at least 30% of the C-level executives failing to hit KPI. This is such a demonstrative problem. I feel like a lot of times we as executives who are desperately trying to find people to fit in roles, we don't understand that age old clause, fire fast, hire slow, right? I
Yeah.
know I've felt this pain just recently. And that's where an organization like you could come in and provide the opportunities and the field of talent, pun intended, right? To make good decisions to scale and grow your business, because there is nothing more overwhelming than making a bad people decision. The all
Mhm.
the bitterness that comes from that, the frustration that there's, and even like the idea that like maybe there's no one out here who can do that. That's where we need to lean on somebody like your organization to really be the player that finds us the right time and talent
Right.
to accomplish our goals. Is that fair?
Yeah, very fair. And you mentioned scaling up. We work with a lot of mature startups to scale ups, and what we find is that a lot of people in those organizations, they don't have someone dedicated to do this, right? To do recruitment, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's another job, another hat to wear on top of
Sure.
the five, six, seven other hats that they're already wearing. So that's a very natural fit for us to mid-sized, larger organizations where we can affect and talk about strategy, talk about process, and even
Yeah.
augment some of what they're doing. But
Well,
yeah, it's go ahead. Yeah,
no, well, I'll just speak to that, right? So
yeah.
we deal with a lot of startups and scale ups. So if you're a 5 person company or you're a 25 person company, if I've got to spend 150 to $175,000 to hire a recruiter and I have no idea how to manage them, I have no idea
Hmm.
what tools they're going to need. I have no idea. They're going to tell me all that stuff. So now I've got another 50, 60, $75,000 in investment to enable them. And I won't know for 18 months whether or not that person is any good because I've never managed that resource. Or I can hire another developer, or I can hire a salesperson that I'm sticking in the bullpen, and I can immediately create revenue or code out of that. I mean,
Right.
that's where your value prop becomes indispensable. It's like that in between, right? Is where
Yeah.
how you're going to help that organization get to that next level. I think that's where the getting rich in the niche is for you. It's just that you're able to really set in and solve a problem. And oh, by the way, where when I was running my dev shop, I'm not spending a $30,000 recruiting fee and
Right.
then watching all the margin of every project go into the creating more bodies for me to now support. You guys come in, and because your business model, you're actually different that way. So speak to that, right? Like speak to the
Yeah.
value prop of Field of Talent.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Tony. So we really take a project management approach to a search. So let's say you needed to hire a developer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we look at that job and we estimate the time it's going to take us based on data, based on what we've done previously for similar roles.
Sure.
And we price that out and say, okay, here's basically what it's going to be for the total search, but we're going to bill that every couple of weeks for you. So if you boil all that down, it's more or less kind of a time and materials type of rate.
Sure.
So
A
we build
property
that
manager.
out. Yeah, and we manage that weekly, but we make the agreement very flexible, right? So you can scale us up or scale us back. If you needed to add more positions, we can adjust. Or if you needed to pause the search, we can pause it. Because sometimes when you're a scale up and you're growing, you're not quite sure what next week's going to look like or next month. So that flexibility is important. So we've been able to provide that. And then we tend to be, for even just one position, we tend to be about 20% less than what a contingency recruitment firm will charge, sometimes more. And then especially more with volume as it scales and you're growing
Sure.
and we become your basically your embedded RPO.
So for a startup, you tend to be in that 20%, more cost effective. When you get into that, I'm sorry, when you get into that scale up side, that's where the accountability of scale really, because then you're truly become an adjunct part of their team. And I think that's one of the things that I call cost innovation, right? It's like, and I didn't write that book, so I actually can't say I called it that, but cost innovation is one of the most powerful things we can do with our business model. And I think that's really why I like what you guys are doing over there at Field of Talent. Hey, one last thing as we're putting a message out there, we're trying.
Yeah,
You and I've been like riffing back and forth on finding the right who. For those
right.
guys that are trying to scale, those women that are trying to scale their business, they're trying to get to the next level. What is the one, kind of two sentence, truism of Field of Talent would you like to share with people, just as your free wisdom, your free consulting, if you will?
Mm. Uh, Slow down to speed up. So in when we begin a process with you, when we begin looking at what your need is for the job, we're going to take some time and we're going to ask you a lot of questions. We may ask you the same sort of questions a few different ways because we really want to get to the heart of what you need, what performance looks like, what good performance or great performance looks like out of this position, how they're going to fit your culture, and what's not going to fit your culture. So we want to make sure we get all of that right and we take our time with that. And in doing that, it sets us up for success. And then we understand we have some service level agreements back and forth in terms of turnaround and feedback and things like that, basic stuff. And then because our clients pay us as we go,
Yeah.
we're open book on everything. So we're very transparent. We give you access to our ATS. We give you access. We provide weekly metrics for you. Everything. So it's it's that we call it a kickoff meeting. So in that
Mhm.
initial kickoff meeting, most people in recruitment call it an intake. I've never
Yeah.
liked the term intake because it sounds like it's more, I'm taking your order at the drive-through, right?
Yeah.
We're much more consultative than that and really lead you through that discussion because a lot of times when we talk to a hiring manager, they're used to just saying, well, I need this person to have this, I need them to have this background, this skill, whatever, and then just drop it off at the door and leave. And we're like, hey, wait a minute, tell us more about that. What do they actually need to do to be successful? And let's
Yeah.
put
The
on
power,
all the hats
I
to the
think
side.
I think one of the great things about your guys' organization is I always talking about the curse of knowledge. And if you're an expert in sales, and I would, I've got at least 30,000 hours in sales and marketing. I'm not an expert in recruiting. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
I find a lot of times that brilliant people get confused that brilliance transfers immediately to something that they can study for over a weekend. Like I read a book on recruiting and now I understand how to do it and make really good decisions in that. And that's usually not the case. I mean, I wouldn't pick up a legal book and think that I could suddenly practice divorce court, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the power of what fractional expertise gives us, right? And the fact that you've got a business model that's smarter, that's actually more cost effective than me trying to do it my own makes all the sense in the world. So thanks for
Mhm.
changing the experience that we have out in the economy, man. It's been a great ride to learn about your business and figure out how we can grow together.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it, man.